Welcome to episode 173 of Timm Talk, the podcast about the DC animated universe, co-created by Bruce Timm. I'm Chris Lord.
I'm Cameron Dexter.
And we're back this week with yet more Justice League.
Yes.
I have a lot of thoughts on our episode this week.
I am so excited to talk about this episode.
Metamorphosis. I think
who's like rural drunk uncle wrote this episode?
I have.
Because who is it? Who is this episode for, Chris?
I honestly don't know. Idiots.
I wouldn't say idiots. It's not for children. That's for certain.
You know what? We'll get into it.
Yeah,
we'll get into it.
There's nothing blocking your path, Chris. I'm giving you full take over this runway.
Yeah, I mean, luckily, since we've done away with news, we have plenty of time to get into my thoughts on Metamorphosis. But I do have so many thoughts. All the positive. We ended last week with me saying this show has really found its footing. Like the last 5-6 weeks have all been pretty good episodes. I feel like they really know what they're doing now. And then this comes along.
I'll say up front, I loved this episode.
I hate you.
I thought it was so funny and so just made by a team for nobody. I don't know. I thought this was just so entertaining.
You know what? Let's just go ahead and get into it.
Let's do it.
Why? We don't need any foreplay here. No preamble. We're
No.
just going to get straight into some Metamorphosis here. Okay, so, God damn it. This episode has John Stewart reuniting with his old Marine friend, Rex Mason, who is then very quickly turned into a monstrous element-manipulating being called Metamorpho, who sets out on a mission of revenge against his traitorous boss and future father-in-law, Simon Stagg.
Yes.
But
that's not the A-plot, Chris. Chris, the A-plot of this story is an oil tycoon trying to figure out how to make a slightly safer work environment so the insurance company will still cover him. And his response is, let's make our oil drillers fucking superheroes.
Yes, exactly. Because the cold...
That is the A-plot of this episode. The B-plot is about Rex.
Exactly. Because this episode, you do really need to start with the cold open. And I now realize what a tone set this segment is, because there's an oil drilling accident and some methane gas leaks and a spark goes off and the whole thing blows.
From a rock.
From a rock. Yes, exactly. From a stone rock hitting against a metal drill.
Yes.
I don't think would really cause a spark.
I'm not a scientist.
But don't worry.
We're going to preface this. I'm not a scientist, but no one else in this episode is either.
Nope. Don't worry. I did some background research because there was one thing they said from a chemical perspective. I'm like, okay.
Oh, it was bullshit.
I'm like, wait, hang on. It's been a good 12 years since I studied engineering and science and physics and stuff like that and chemistry. But some stuff lingers. And they said one thing, and I will get to it.
It's just
really pissed me off.
Just smart enough for a seventh grader watching for them to hit the words they hear in class.
Exactly.
Of amino acid. I know that word.
Oh, proteins.
Yeah. It's I get this. I understand this.
They understand it better than the writers did on this one. And
it's the powerhouse of the cell, Chris.
It is the powerhouse of the cell. And look, I suppose I should say apologies in advance to Len Yulee, who wrote this. Len, you do other great work, but...
Yes, I'm sorry for whatever uncle trapped you in a corner and made you write this episode. Because this is written by a dad.
It really is. And I will say that the second part maybe was a little bit better, and that's because that teleplay at least was by Dwayne McDuffie, who does good work.
Yes.
But he did not have good stuff to work with here, for being perfectly honest. I feel like there are definitely some DCAU people who listen to this who have already decided they're not going to listen to the rest of the episode because they maybe love this one. And get ready because it's going to be mostly a shitstorm. But anyways.
Again, I loved this episode. And there's specific quotes I'll pull out later.
Please do. So the oil rig goes, and then of course we do the classic cartoon thing of going from seeing things play out in live action to watching what we've just seen on a monitor in a boardroom with Simon Stagg going, you see how this very kind of commonplace accident happens on your site? Well, don't worry.
Think of the insurance money.
Yes.
You, Mr. Oil Billionaire Tycoon.
Don't worry, Simon Stagg, aka like the oil baron version of Colonel Sanders,
Yes.
who's clearly evil. Like you look at him and he just looks evil.
And if it wasn't him, it was his henchman.
Yes, exactly. Like everything about
Java.
this just screams like blatant, evil, corrupt, like tycoon. He's like, don't worry. Instead of having these like, some small safety considerations here or there that might be like reasonably cost effective, we're going to invest what has to be billions of dollars and far more dangerous process of genetically re-engineering random people into having some of the most powerful powers on the planet.
Yes. All to save you a couple dollars.
Oh, and that's just the cold open. How, like, legitimately, how is this supposed to be more cost effective than just like coming in with like a safety consultant and just changing a few parameters?
I don't know, but that's the funniest opening I've ever imagined.
So
because you have to think like, I don't know Metamorpho's origin, if this is the origin. I did, so quick half tangent.
Should look that up.
When you watch episodes on DC Universe, they will sometimes have a comic attached. Like, hey, if you
that's right,
like this story, check out this comic. And so for these specific episodes, I read the Metamorpho comics connected to this. And Chris, they're so much worse.
The comics are worse?
Yes.
Oh.
First off, they're from 1990, so it's 1990 writing and style.
Listeners, you can't see my face, but it's...
Yeah, it's... I don't want to shift the story too much because there's nothing that connects the comic to this story except that Metamorpho kind of goes evil.
Yeah.
But in the comic world, at least from the 90s perspective, Rex is considered dead. So no one knows that he's Metamorpho.
Okay.
And Simon made Sapphire, his daughter, marry Java. And Java is not just like hinted to be an ape man. He's just like a straight up caveman.
Like an actual caveman from the past?
No, not actual, but like he looks much more like caveman-like.
Oh my God. So you're saying that they found improvements?
Yes. And the comic story that I read was Metamorpho and Sapphire had a child who also has Metamorpho powers.
Of course.
Because it's a baby, he can't control it. And he also has the ability to turn other things. It's kind of like a firestorm thing.
Okay.
He has the power to turn other things into other elements.
Okay.
And so when he was birthed, the doctor turned just into nitrogen and just like evaporated from the room.
Talk about gruesome comics deaths.
Yeah. And so the child is in a very special container in a very special room, locked away from society. And Rex is like, no, fuck that. That's my kid. I'm going to go save him. Breaks into Stag. Stag is like, how dare you take my property, your child? And he calls on the Metal Men, who's another group of heroes I've never heard of before.
Wait, but weren't they in The Brave and the Bold?
They were.
Yeah.
Yes, but I just didn't remember that episode.
Oh, okay. It's like Dr. Magnus, I want to
Yes.
say, is the leader of the Metal Men? Yeah.
Yeah, so Magnus is the one using the child to create a new element for Stag to sell. Because Stag is just like a straight up oh fuck, what's his name?
Lex Luthor?
No, Tesla.
Elon Musk.
He's an Elon Musk.
Yeah,
kind
he's
of
a Musk.
character.
He's an absolute Musk. Yeah.
But because of that, they call in the Metal Men, but they call in someone else to help. Or they don't call him in. He's just kind of there in the background.
Okay.
Guy Gardner is there.
Fucking hell.
And he's like, oh, you're going to fuck with my man Stag? Like, I love Stag. We're so similar. I'm a capitalist. He's a capitalist. I'm a cold-blooded American. I'm going to save this guy and his fortune by going to fight Metamorpho. And Metamorpho's like, that's my kid. He's like, that's property of Stag Enterprise. And so Guy Gardner fights Metamorpho over his child.
This is all in one issue?
This is one issue.
Oh my God. And weren't you just saying like you had read enough comics now to actually kind of appreciate Guy Gardner, and then they throw this at you?
They changed him a lot, apparently. Because this guy is unbearable.
Wait, so did he start out as a shit and become good, or did he start out good and just eventually become a shit?
I think he started out as a shit and like had to become good.
Okay.
Without Hal there.
Okay. How?
Because this is pre-Parallax.
Okay, all right, that's fair. How the hell did Guy Gardner ever get a ring in the first place?
I mean, he's very into himself, and that's kind of a necessity to be a Green Lantern.
I didn't realize that the rings are powered on narcissism.
Some of them are apparently, because in the fight,
the rings aren't colored; they're just perfectly reflective. So you can look at yourself in
a
them.
mirror. He is Narcissus incarnate. There's a moment where they're fighting, and Metamorpho's like, "Oh, I know the Green Lantern weakness," and he just turns himself into gold.
Yeah.
And Guy's like, "That's never stopped me," and he takes his ring off and just tries to fucking punch him.
That sounds like Guy Gardner, though. Yeah.
And Metamorpho like obviously knocks him out cold, and he's like, "I'm glad I fought this Green Lantern because if I fought someone else, they would have probably figured out how to stop me."
But also, so Guy just tries to punch someone who's made of gold.
Yes.
Great.
Mm-hmm. And he gets knocked out, and that's when the metal men come in.
He deserves it.
Yeah.
He absolutely deserves it.
It's just that one line of just like, "I'm glad I fought this Green Lantern." It felt so nice to read.
Maybe that's what inspired them to make this episode. They're like, what if he fought a better Green Lantern?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. I guess that makes me appreciate this more. They found a way to somehow improve upon this.
Mm-hmm.
But right from the beginning, it gets pretty ridiculous. So yes, like in the cold open, we meet the blatantly nefarious Simon Stagg with his insane plot to make Metamorphos. And then we go straight from there to what is a sequence that for me is maybe the most egregiously stupid I've seen in the DCAU in a long time.
The train sequence?
The train sequence. And I will go through it bit by bit and explain fully why.
Yes.
So now Stagg is having a mutagen. Mind you, it may be the mutagen that creates Metamorpho. It's unclear because when we see the mutagen again in the second episode, it's not even the same color.
Nope.
So who knows?
This one's more of an acid.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a mutagen, quote unquote, that's being transported by train in the hands of Java, his enormous caveman.
I love him.
Looking very stupid
fucking
henchman.
love Java. He's great. He's the crunk.
He is a crunk. He's an absolute crunk. Yeah, he's pretty dense.
He's a himbo if I've ever seen one.
A himbo?
You don't know himbos?
What's a himbo? Oh, like a bimbo, but himbo?
Yeah, it's sexy but stupid.
Wait, hang on. I mean, Crunk is sexy but stupid.
Yeah.
Java is, at least for me, not my type.
No, yeah, he's a lower grade himbo.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, it's becoming the new trope.
That's a great portmanteau.
Isn't it?
Love it. Okay. But yeah, so Java is tasked with transporting these vials in a case, which is too big to fit in overhead. So it's just taken away from him by the train porter, and he just doesn't bother to stop it. So then...
He's got manners, Chris.
I think he's just stupid. The case is just casually stacked on top of a bunch of other boxes, but really, trains are fairly stable. I don't think it's going to fall.
Yes.
But of course, it does fall off the stack. It is unlocked, so it cracks open, and then one vial pops out and, of course, breaks. The mutagen is somehow, I guess to your point, more of an acid, so it's also corrosive, so it seeps through the floor onto what is a not electrical part of the train. It is just literally a metal axle of the wheels, but somehow it creates an electrical short that causes both the brakes to fail and the train to get stuck accelerating.
Yep. As it does.
As one does. So now it's a runaway train. At the same time, a truck is broken down on the train tracks and gets destroyed, which doesn't do anything. We assume that's going to cause like an explosion that's going to like create some sort of accident. No, it just breaks the truck for no reason whatsoever.
They just ran out of explosion budget in this episode. There probably was supposed to be.
You know what? Maybe you're right. Maybe this was supposed to be a completely different tangent because it just breaks the truck, right? So Green Lantern shows up to like stop it from being a complete runaway and like stops it. So, but all of this has happened on a train that coincidentally is carrying Rex Mason, former best friend of Jon Stewart and fiance to Stagg's daughter, Sapphire. Now, I have figured this is one of those like, you get one coincidence in a movie, right?
Yep.
It's like, I will believe the impossible, but not the improbable. It's like, that's one of the reasons why I've probably mentioned this before, but Spider-Man 3 is so dumb because it's the guy who maybe shot Uncle Ben who happens to fall into like the sand accelerator and become a monster. That's like two coincidences on top of the third coincidence, which is like one meteorite containing the Venom symbiote happens to crash in Central Park next to Spider-Man. So now you're at three coincidences.
Yeah.
And it just starts to get too crazy. I assumed that the accident was going to happen here, and that's why like they had to put Mason on the train and we'll give them like one coincidence. But no, everyone just leaves the accident.
Yeah.
Totally fine. Nothing in this sequence makes any sense whatsoever. It was just super lazy and just throw it all in there. It doesn't matter that it's all coincidental. It doesn't matter that it's all inconsequential. Just put it on there.
But let's also
fine.
talk about how they introduce Rex Mason as this womanizer, you know, like,
He's a sleaze.
he's kind of a sleaze, but you know, he is the 60s trope. He is the like, I'm too cool for everybody here. Like, everyone look at me. I got my, I don't know what accent I'm attempting to do.
I'm not
it's
sure either.
Nothing. He has his cocktail and he's, you know,
He's
talking
maybe
to
from Brooklyn.
He's maybe from Brooklyn, very loose midpoint between Brooklyn and Boston. You know, he's flirting with the waitress. He has his cocktail. And then the next time we see him is with his fiance.
I know. Yes, exactly. And like, we're supposed to be emotionally invested in their relationship.
There's obviously not a lot of trust in this relationship.
No, exactly, because like, we're supposed to care. We're supposed to care about this relationship. But the first time we meet him is he's just like casually hitting on some waitress. And there's no like, he's not like trying to be a little bit like flirty but distant, something like that. He's like full on hitting on her, like they're gonna go somewhere after the train stops.
Probably to introduce her to his fiance.
But okay, and then so all of this shit happens, and then we do meet his fiance.
Oh, which I need to just add in really quick. You meet Sapphire in the comic, in the recommended comic. She is so horribly written.
Really,
it's painful because they even Rex describes her as like you know that's supposed to be my wife. It's my fiance. It's like I know like you know her dad told her to marry Java, and she's not the smartest bimbo around. And I'm like, that's your fiance. He's like,
wow.
Yeah, but he basically said like she's dumb, but she's good to look at, so that's why I married her. And then when we meet her in the story, you know, he's going like, "Oh, where's our child?" And she's like, "I had that child 3 months ago, and you didn't once care about coming to visit." He's like, "Well, I was dead." So I think that's my excuse. She's like, "Oh, you're right. Let's go see your son. He's at a lab. But before we go, I need to go powder my nose, put my makeup on, and maybe I'll change dresses." I'm like, have these guys never like? I understand where the stereotype comes from because it's people who've never interacted with a woman before writing this character.
Yeah, I mean that's all of like entertainment in modern history. Like that's true of everything in the 60s. Like we don't know women.
But this is 1990.
Just goes to show how bad it was.
Yeah. Like this is dialogue that should have been from the 60s.
That is honestly horrifying to hear because the way they introduce her in this episode is pretty bad to start with.
Yes.
Because like,
it's very Bruce Timm.
It's so Bruce Timm's like, oh, and here's my fiance, and she comes out to greet company in just a towel.
Yes.
Who does that?
A lot of porns.
All of the porns.
Mostly porn. I'm going to say if there's a split between like how often that happens in reality versus how often that happens in porn, it's like a 0.5 to 99.5% ratio.
Like, no one does that. And it's just, it immediately just, like, it already the waitress on the train was getting sexualized, and it jumps the fiance. And yeah, it's like, she is hypersexualized for no reason other than to give, like, both Rex and John a reason to just gawk.
Yes.
I guess, like, the idea was to try and set up that John would be, like, plausibly jealous of Rex because his fiance is so hot and insists on only
you can do
wearing
that
a
outside
towel.
you can do that with not a towel on.
You can do that in a lot of other ways. Yeah, like you can show her being just, you know, beautiful, which she's drawn to be, without having her to be in just a towel. This is why I said that this episode's for idiots, because like moments like that means like this isn't really for kids.
Yeah. Yes, I agree.
Like this is not like, look, there's definitely some like sexualization that happens in cartoons, and yeah, okay, Justice League is one of those weird things where it's like kind of for kids, kind of for not. Maybe this was them being like, teenage boys will love this.
Yeah, like I said, this is for like 7th graders who've just taken their first chemistry class.
Exactly. Who are really excited by the reference to amino acids and the naked lady in a towel.
Yes.
I
mean, this was for like, here's how I'm imagining the situation. Bruce Timm saw the finish line in sight of his shows are coming to an end. He doesn't have much longer with Justice League or in the DC universe. So what he's going to do is pad his portfolio like parallel to his shows.
Yeah.
And he's like, what do I love to do? I love drawing pinup girls, animated pinup girls. So I'm just going to shoehorn a couple of those in just so I can have them for my resume afterwards.
God damn it. It's just so egregious. And just everyone in this episode behaves like an idiot. So then John realizes that it was just some random... Batman investigates the crash for some reason. Discovers a mutagen. Tells John. John then assumes it must have come from Rex because only a company like Stag Industries would have that kind of chemical on a train in a universe where everyone has dangerous chemicals in dangerous places.
Yes.
Planes, trains, automobiles, all of them at some point have been the result of some crazy chemical spill that's mutated someone.
So this is that leads into a point that I want to talk about for a second. There's something that just feels so wrong to me about a universe that has alien contact, that has superheroes, that has, you know, a couple billionaires that like actually care about society.
Yeah.
That still runs on oil. I don't know why that feels so weird to me.
Actually, that's a really good point. Yeah.
Like there shouldn't be oil tycoons in this society. There's so many other versions of energy out there.
Yeah. Like, exactly. Fictional forms of energy that we don't even have in our real world.
Yeah.
Like, it's ridiculous that our current world still runs on fossil fuels. But in a fictionalized one with the most advanced alien technology in the world. And,
Yes.
like, rings with infinite power sources. Really?
There's something that just feels weird about seeing Metropolis, and it's like, oh yeah, that still runs on oil.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't.
Metropolis is Metropolis.
Like, it probably runs on some sort of, like, crazy, clean...
Luthonium.
Exactly. Yeah.
Some bullshit Lex Luthor something, or like something with Ray Palmer probably.
Yeah.
Like Ray Palmer would have found a better way to use oil.
Actually,
Or a better substitute.
that really applies to the MCU too, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, because in that universe, Tony Stark actually does create like a self-sustaining energy source. Like in the first movie, and by the 23rd movie, people are still driving around in fossil fuel cars.
Yes.
I mean, I guess it's post-apocalyptic, so we'll give them like a bit of a break-ish.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like he just solved the time travel paradox in a night while probably half drunk.
It's fair.
No, that's rude. Tony Stark, he's gotten over his drinking thing.
Yeah, I don't think we see...
Rude for me to say.
Do we see... I think we see him drink a little bit after Iron Man 2. I feel like he maybe has like a scotch at some point, right?
I don't think so. I think he's clean after that.
Yeah, do we see him drink in...
Because I'm thinking of, the opening of Ultron.
Yeah, or they're all at the party sequence. I don't remember if he has a
Yes.
drink or not. Or
I'm going to say no, because that's such a thing they hammer into
that's
between
true.
both Tony and Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah.
Of like, he doesn't use substances anymore.
Yeah, that's fair. So, but yes, you're right. Why does the DCAU still run on fossil fuel? Okay, so...
This episode is a mess.
Where were we? Okay, right.
love it.
So, all right. So then John assumes that it had to come from Rex. He confronts Rex, and Rex is like, nah, man, it wasn't me, but I bet it was my boss. So then Rex goes to confront Simon Stagg and basically tells him, like, you're corrupt and a jerk, and also I'm boning your daughter. Or does he not say that? I can't remember.
I mean, not in those words. No, he doesn't bring it up in the meeting.
That's true.
Because Simon basically is like, hey, watch yourself.
Yeah.
Like, you don't know who you're talking to.
Exactly. Stagg threatens him. So then he shows up Stagg then shows up at his daughter's place, presumably like later that day or maybe the next day based on the timeline. And Rex has already taken a job in Chicago, and he's convinced like Sapphire that her dad's a schmuck. And so Sapphire's going to leave with him, and they're going to run off to Chicago and leave Stagg behind.
Yes.
Sure. Great. So then,
And he calls him Pops. No, Dad.
Dad. Right? Yeah.
Which I don't know. Obviously I'm not married, and I have a couple married friends. Do you call your parents-in-law mom and dad?
Yeah, some do.
That's weird to me.
No, I think
I don't know.
that's pretty normal, actually.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, in this specific context, it's kind of weird because...
Well, yeah, that was him just like rubbing it in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like this, you're just kind of being a prick now. But so Rex goes back to his office to clean things out. An alarm goes off, and he is tricked by an empty beaker.
As you do, because he's a scientist.
Because he's a scientist, laying in the middle of the floor.
They never say his job title.
No, they never do. They don't say what he does at all. And
But
so
it pays well, apparently.
It pays very well.
Yeah.
And so he's trapped. He gets like trapped in this case and like hit with the mutagen and becomes Metamorpho way later in the episode than I expected.
Yeah, it's very Dr. Manhattan.
Yes, it is. Yeah, but nowhere near as cool.
Right. And then it's also very Two-Face.
That too. Yeah.
But also not as good.
But also not as good. Because then he ends up in the hospital. And of course, it's like, it's all of the classic things of like, he gets out of bed, like everyone's like, oh my God, like what happened to you? And he looks himself in the mirror. Oh my God, I'm a hideous monster. Oh my God, my fiance has
I think
fainted.
it looks pretty cool. I
mean,
like the look of Metamorpho.
It's all right. I mean, yeah.
I think it's cool.
But so his fiance faints so that he doesn't have a chance to realize that she still loves him despite the way he looks, of course. And then GL shows up by flying in through the hospital window.
Yes.
How did he know which window to fly into?
He checked a couple.
This is like his 10th room.
Yes.
Finally got it right.
Well, so what they do is, he was under for a minute.
Yeah.
And GL like scanned the building beforehand. He's like, okay, it's 7 up, 3 to the right. So he pre-plans.
He pre-planned, but then he decided to wait just long enough for Rex to leave before he shows up.
Yeah.
Yes. So then Rex storms out of the hospital into yet another string of cliches, including seeing himself in a tech store front on a video camera played across a bunch of screens. Does that exist in the real world?
I was going to ask that.
Like,
it must have in like the 70s.
Yeah, maybe
because it was that was such a big trope.
And I see it, I think, mostly in cartoons. I don't know if I've seen it a lot in live action.
Well, you see the other version where it's like a gaggle of children out front of a tech store because it's just like a wall of TVs.
Yeah.
And that's just that, because most of them don't have TVs at home. So they're just watching TV in the window.
Yeah.
And then it's the store owner coming out with the broom. It's like, get away, you kids. You know how it works.
You street vermin?
Yeah.
You human beings.
You rascals.
Because that I could believe. I could definitely believe that, like, back in the day, like, when window shopping was an actual thing, they would put TVs in the storefront. I have a hard time believing that it was so common to put a video camera pointed out at the sidewalk.
It also feels very, like, MTV era.
Yeah.
Of, like, see yourself on screen kind of
I guess so. It just... For as often as we see it, and especially for as often as it's used to highlight like a character that has gone through some sort of physical change and is now a grotesque monster.
Yes.
It just is such a well-trod trope at this point that it's every moment of this episode continues to pull me further and further out because just the writing is so lazy.
Oh, it's so funny.
Because of course, Rex sees himself in the monitors and freaks out and steps out into the street only to get hit by a truck and then realize he has superpowers.
Yes.
How many times have we seen that, Cameron?
I'm going to say...
Just a little question. I assume you knew this off the top of your head.
4. But we don't... I don't even think he knows he has powers. He explodes.
Yeah, he just bursts.
Yeah. Which like, you see the driver get out of the car just fully traumatized. Because he thinks he just... didn't kill them, but like blew them up with his car.
Yeah, he splatted the guy.
Yeah.
Like a bug on his windshield.
And then Rex kind of reforms himself from his goo. Mm-hmm. And the cops must be American cops because they're like, hey, what are you? And immediately open fire. Yep. Bullets ricochet off him, which doesn't happen again later in the episode.
Nope.
And the cops call in backup because they think he's shooting at them. And what is their response? Rocket launcher.
Yeah, out of the backseat of his car, pulls a rocket launcher.
God, I love seeing like cop representation in the early 2000s looking in the current lens. It's fucking hilarious.
If there is one good thing you could pull out of this episode, it's that one segment and go, maybe this is why people are calling for defunding the police.
Yes. It's like, hey, put your hands up. Immediately opens fire. It's like, he's a threat. We need backup.
Yes.
Get the rocket launcher.
It is honestly like it is.
Oh, but that's not the only rocket launcher in this episode.
No, it's not. It's not. There's so many. It is like both like very hyperbolic, but also tragically prescient.
Yes.
Watching this moment happen. So then, of course, everyone thinks that Rex is now like this horrible monster. So he runs off, and then Sapphire is distraught, and so goes to John. It's like, John, please help me, and like hugs him, and like gives him a kiss on the cheek, which is like a little bit ridiculous, but of course it had to be that way because Java is taking photos
Yes.
of this. So now I figured, okay, he took a photo, that's going to come into play later on. Later
We've
on,
also seen him taking photos of everything.
This true. He's like taking. He's
an amateur photographer.
He's documenting Metamorpho so that Stag can use it to sell
He's
it.
an amateur photographer.
He is.
That's what he does in his free time. They're really fleshing out these side characters.
He's really giving him so much texture.
Yeah, so much depth.
So you kind of see that
He
moment.
wanted to go to photo school,
He did.
but he couldn't. And he to help pay for college, he went through, one of those clinical trials that just happened to turn him into an ape man. He's like, oh man, no one's going to hire me now. And Stag is like, oh, I have a job for you, son.
Do you think that after the events of this episode, like he serves his time with a relatively light sentence because he was basically just, the acting muscle for Stag.
Yeah.
He serves his time for like 5 years, and then he goes and he becomes like a nature photographer working in Africa, like photographing like apes and chimpanzees and stuff like that, and gorillas,
Absolutely.
because he can blend in.
Yeah. But he's also not a good photographer.
No, he's awful.
Yeah.
Yeah. As we'll get to. But so there's that moment, and you think, okay, like clearly they're setting up the idea that like Stag is going to use these photos at some point down the line. Down the line being
35 seconds from now.
the very next scene.
Yeah.
The very next scene when Metamorpho like breaks into Stag's office and is ranting and raving, like, how'd you do this to me? And Stag says, no, it wasn't me. It was your friend.
Who you only saw again yesterday. Maybe. It might still be today.
Yes, but I have taken those photos that Java took, and in the last, let's presume, 2 hours, had them developed, enlarged, and I'm now keeping them in a manila envelope inside my jacket just in case you happen to show up here and I need to quickly blackmail someone.
Yes. Well, Chris, what was the prominent store of the early 2000s?
Kinko's?
1 hour photo.
What? That's true.
Yeah. Quickly put out of business by 59-minute photo by that great Dimitri Martin joke.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. But yeah, so Rex knows that Stag is a shit. If he just heard that there may have been a dangerous chemical on that train and he immediately assumes that Stag did it, clearly he doesn't trust the guy very much.
Well, that's why I said at the top of the episode, Rex, his relationship with Sapphire, there's no trust there. Because the second there's something against her, he believes it.
Yeah.
So like maybe this isn't the first time something like this happened from a womanizer man and an over-sexualized woman.
Yeah. You know what it probably is? It's probably just that like Rex is out there cheating left and right, and so he just assumes that Sapphire is too.
Yep.
Yeah, because he just immediately believes Stag that John Stewart is like having an affair with his fiance and also set him up to go into like this weird chemical experiment to get rid of him.
Yep.
Immediately buys it from a guy who is clearly the least trustworthy person on the planet by Rex's own standards. Fucking hell. Yeah, and so then like Rex goes off to try and fight John, and the cliffhanger ends with like Rex standing over him about ready to kill him.
Yes.
While Stag is outside of this base or whatever it is with Java and a video camera recording all of it.
Yes, to sell to the oil tycoon.
Yes.
Because that's still the A plot of this episode. Let's not forget. The A plot is still selling superpowers to an oil baron for his workers.
Yep.
To be more efficient.
Yeah, because even though it disappears for roughly 30 of the 40-minute runtime, it comes back.
That's still the A plot. Let's not forget. Let's not forget what we're here for.
You are right. It's still the A plot. Because then, yeah, we get into like episode 2, where to try and sell this technology to the oil baron per the A plot, Stag tries to create a better Metamorpho, but like Rex interrupts the process, causing Stag's consciousness to transfer into a colossal chemical creature.
That's not King Kong.
It's not King Kong.
I will say it. It's not King Kong.
It's definitely not King Kong.
Yes.
Oh my God. So then now...
Well, we do have a redeeming factor of this episode, Chris.
Martian Manhunter?
Because for 3 episodes... We have watched Martian Manhunter, John Jones, our man from Mars, go down on the first punch of every combat they've had.
Yep.
And for the first time, Chris, he did it.
He did it. He fights back.
He phased through the first punch.
He phased not only did he phase the first punch, but he then turned into the dragon. Which we were asking about last week. He finally turns into the dragon and like fights Metamorpho for a little bit until he gets hit with a bunch of flames, and then he's knocked out at 3 minutes and 37 seconds. But
that is so like, talk about a fucking increase.
Yeah,
like that went from like a 6-second fight to a 2-minute fight.
Yeah,
like that's improvement right there.
It honestly is. That is the one redeeming thing in this entire 2-part episode.
Yes.
God damn it. But yeah, clearly the League can't take him down because he can turn into kryptonite and fire and gas or whatever other weaknesses our heroes have.
Yeah, but Batman comes in and just throws his normal what are those called?
Exploding batarangs?
No. It's the boa things. Like,
Ebola.
Ebola. Yes.
Yeah, not
Ebola.
Not Ebola. Ebola.
Ebola.
Yes.
Bola.
Not a bowl of soup.
Yes, a bowl of soup.
Yes.
A cuppa.
Yeah. Oh.
And that catches him just fine.
Yep. Yeah, that's the thing. Is in a fight with Superman.
Yep.
Martian Manhunter.
Yeah.
Green Lantern.
Yep.
And Hawkgirl.
Yes.
The person who does the most damage
is Batman.
Is Batman with a bola and an exploding batarang.
Yep. Because Batman always wins.
That's true. Batman must always win. So Rex escapes from the League in an underground river. It very conveniently plays like massive underground river and cavern beneath this military base. And then he shows up through Sapphire's sink and then confronts her and pretty quickly realizes like, oh, wait a minute. Maybe the guy who showed me the photos who doesn't like me, maybe he's the bad guy in all of this. Wait a minute. Maybe it wasn't my old pal that I just rekindled the friendship with. Maybe it's the asshole who's caused me a bunch of problems.
Yes.
Who set this whole thing up.
So we go back to him, and what's he doing? He's forwarding the A plot, Chris. He's on the phone.
Someone has to, because the writers aren't.
Yes.
So.
He's on the phone with the oil baron, being like, see how efficient this is? Not only can they do their job, but they can't, you also don't have to deal with labor laws because no one can stop them from working ever again.
Nope. So then Metamorpho once again shows up to try and capture, kill whatever Stag. And he's bested, and this is where I'm going to really get into some science shit here. This is maybe the move that pissed me off the most. He's bested by a spray gun that Java has that freezes him. Yes. In Stag's reasoning, he says that at a certain temperature, all chemical reactions cease.
Again, exactly what you would learn in a 7th grade chemistry class.
Now, I heard that. I'm like, wait, okay, hang on. I know absolute zero is a thing.
Yes,
we
Kelvin.
definitely. Yes, exactly. 0 Kelvin or negative 273 degrees Celsius. It's a real thing. We use it in thermodynamics.
Yes.
But I don't remember a lot about it. So I did a little bit of research on this.
We've never actually hit it, though.
This is exactly it. Yes, you're right. So absolute zero is a theoretical temperature at which all chemical reactions cease because essentially there is no heat left in the molecules to create any sort of movement. So yes, physical movement, chemical reactions all cease at absolute zero. But Cameron, you are right. It is a theoretical temperature that we have never actually achieved. We have gotten very close to it we got to, I believe it was in a lab like 0.45 nanokelvin. I forget what nanokelvin is, but we got like really, really fucking close in extremely controlled environments in a lab. We've never achieved that level outside with a hose.
Yes, with what people use to like paint fences.
Yes. As far as I can tell, Mr. Freeze, this universe's absolute
king of
expert,
cold.
the king of cold, the expert on
Yes.
all sub-zero freezing technology, has
Or any of the cold villains, because it's
That's
not
right.
just Mr.
That's true.
Freeze.
We got some Icicle. We got some Captain Cold in here. We have a lot of cold villains.
Icicle Jr.
Icicle Jr. None of them have achieved this, but Simon Stagg with a hose
Yes.
has. But also, it ain't that effective because they freeze him, they throw him in the back of a van, and he thaws.
So in the van is where my favorite line comes from. And this is where I knew it was written by a drunk uncle over Thanksgiving who cornered a writer. And he said, where's my quote? Word for word is the two guys driving the truck.
Mm-hmm.
They say, industrial waste management. Man, that's a growing industry. I'm glad I'm here.
Yep.
And that's the line where I'm like, that's an uncle. That is an uncle who works in waste management who wanted his voice heard.
Yep. I mean, to be fair, in this universe, it really is, though. There's a lot of industrial waste.
Mm-hmm.
And just a lot of industrial, like, chemical runoff and byproduct and collateral damage.
Yeah.
From superheroing.
Just from Ace Chemicals.
Yeah, it's pretty much just Ace.
Yeah.
Ace, Lex. You know, Bruce has got some shady stuff going on, too. He hides it a lot.
I'm surprised they don't all just go work in Gotham.
Yeah.
Because that would be the place for waste management.
It really would. Like, I feel like you wouldn't really need it in Metropolis. Because,
No.
like, Metropolis, it does seem to be the city that runs on, like, well, theoretically, it's supposed to run on clean energy and be super futuristic and advanced. Also, I love that pretty much every episode of Justice League is just set in Metropolis, whether it's intended to be or not, because they just use the animation of the Metropolis police cars.
Yeah, well, it's also like they have such a backlog from Superman.
That's true. Yeah, they have so much animation left over. Mm-hmm. My God. It's so ridiculous.
But yeah, when that line was said, I had to pause it and really think about, like, who is this episode for?
Who is it for, though?
Because, like, if it's for kids, don't use that language.
Yeah.
If it's for adults, it doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't. And that's the thing. It's like, a kid's not going to get that joke, but also, it's not even really a joke.
It's not.
It's not.
It's not. It's a small plea from the corner of the room.
Yeah. Also, why? Because I know these shows reuse animation a lot, and they reuse character models a lot. Mm-hmm. Why, for one of your two, hourly employees that is disposing of a nearly unstoppable creature, why is one of them a reused animation model from Firefly?
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yes, the guy driving the truck with like the buzz, like the kind of like the buzz widow's peak and the earring is Garfield Lynn's Firefly. I think they've just like changed the color of his hair, but it's a fairly distinct looking character.
That's amazing.
And in a show that has what at this point hundreds of animation character models you could throw in there, why that one? Is it supposed to be Firefly?
Maybe he's trying to go on the straight and narrow.
By work, I mean, this is his version. Straight and narrow is like working for like a corrupt, polluting tycoon, disposing of his heroes.
Yes, I mean maybe he doesn't know what he's driving.
I guess not. Maybe. Also, hang on. How the fuck did they get him into the van? If he's frozen at absolute zero, how do you pick that up and put it in the van?
Put on some gloves. I don't see the problem.
Just some latex gloves. You're fine. Yeah. Maybe some oven mitts.
Yeah, just put on some like winter gloves.
Yeah.
I mean, if I can make a snowball in a glove, then I feel like I can pick up
a
guy at 0 Kelvin.
Sapphire knit some lovely mittens for
Yeah.
Simon last year, and he just used those to pick him up and throw him into the van.
Well, yeah, because of course she's housewife extraordinaire.
God damn it. I hate this episode so much.
This episode is fucking hilarious.
I hate it so much. Because I looked it up. I was like, is that character credited as Garfield Lynn's? And he's not. He's just truck driver, stag thug, brake man. What?
Sure.
What is a brake man?
Someone who hits the brakes.
A brakeman?
Yeah.
I don't understand. I don't get it. But yeah, let's just throw him in the back. He obviously thaws himself and gets out. And then, okay. So now we're at the point
Now
where
we're the big bad.
where Simon is trying to create a new Metamorpho using maybe not the same mutagen. We don't know.
Yes. But without needing a body this time.
Which doesn't really make sense.
No.
So or maybe they don't have a, well, yeah, they don't have a body yet, so I'm not sure what he's doing, but he's controlling the equipment with like these VR goggles and a helmet.
Yes, very of the time.
Very of the time.
It has to look like future technology for an oil baron.
Exactly. Very dated future technology. So he then is in the process of creating Metamorpho, we assume, that, or maybe just transferring the mutagen. I'm not sure, but Metamorpho shows up for like the 4th time in these 2 episodes because no one can dispose of him properly, and sabotages the process so that the mutagen, which clearly has some sort of weird electrical powers given its effect on non-electrical devices on a train, somehow draws Stag's consciousness through the VR helmet into this gelatinous goo that then becomes a giant monster.
Yes.
That I think
It's not King Kong.
That's not King Kong.
Not King Kong.
Not King Kong. That has some of the Metamorpho powers. It can do a little bit of elemental manipulation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But I will say, Chris, this is where the budget is. Because this fight sequence is so good.
Is it?
Yes, it is.
Is it? Okay, like
There's one punch specifically that I had to do a light applause for the animators, and it's when Superman comes in for an uppercut, and he hits the jaw of Marshmallow Man, and the face smears up and off screen, and then just snaps back into place.
Okay,
and it looked so good and so clean.
I am glad
that was beautiful.
You found something redeeming here.
I found so much redeeming in this episode
because
every bit of this episode is redeeming.
I was focused on the plot that is totally not King Kong, but definitely involves Simon grabbing his daughter from the tower they live in and pulling a fucking Fey Ray and taking her to the top of a tower that looks kind of like the Empire State Building.
Yep,
but it's not King Kong.
Not King Kong.
Even though Rex makes a comment about he could definitely use some biplanes right now.
Not King Kong.
Still not King Kong. Definitely not a ripoff of King Kong.
You know what? I missed that reference because I thought it was a joke because in part 1 and part 2, we see that he can fly a little bit.
So why isn't he?
But he never does it again. He can just turn himself into a gas and just kind of float through the air. And I thought that was a reference to like, oh man, I wish I could fly like everyone else. But no, you can.
No, they just threw in they were hanging a lantern on the fact they completely ripped off the finale of King Kong for this episode. Yes.
Oh, so before the fight starts, a moment I love is Metamorpho's down in the lab. There's giant gelatinous monster comes out, breaks through the ceiling, it collapses on Rex.
Yes.
And even though he's never been hurt before this moment, that's what knocks him out.
Is a big rock.
Yes. The Justice League comes to the place and they're like, how could you do this? And it's like, did you not see the giant green glowing monster walk out of this place?
He was like 30 feet tall?
Yes. You can see him from a ways away.
Yeah. Yeah.
He kind of stands out. He's bright green.
It's a little obvious. If you could spot a runaway train, you might be able to spot
a giant green monster.
Yeah, a 30-foot tall glowing green monster.
Yes. So they went with a King Kong reference. Do you think... This is a stupid question.
Cannot wait. Cannot wait for it.
Why would they go that route when he has so much more in common with the Marshmallow Man from Ghostbusters?
Because this is the level, that basic level that they're thinking about, right? Because like one could even say that the Stay Puft Marshmallow from Ghostbusters is like kind of an homage to King Kong in some ways to begin with, right? Like he does climb up to the top of the tower. It's not quite the same, but it's close-ish. But like that's how base level the writing in this episode is. It goes for like the root cliche where it can.
Yes.
Because you're right. The Stay Puft would kind of make more sense because also it is a like chemical technological villain, so they have to use science.
Or even a Godzilla reference.
Right, yeah, they could have gone all these different directions, but no, like they had to go for the most cliche thing possible because this episode is written for idiots who wouldn't know a more modern, sophisticated reference.
Seventh graders.
Than this.
Seventh graders.
Well, guess what, Cameron? Most seventh graders are idiots.
Yes, they are.
And if you are listening to this and you're a seventh grader, one, I am just very apologetic for what we say all the time.
I'm not. You've heard worse in school.
That's true. You said worse yourselves. But yeah, like let's be honest, seventh graders, not that bright. I was not very bright as a seventh grader.
Oh, I certainly wasn't.
I'll say that right now. Also, I would have been basically in the seventh grade when this episode came out. I probably liked this.
You are the audience.
I probably liked this episode when I saw it 20 years ago.
Yes.
But yeah, so they have to like neutralize him. Batman realizes that he's a protein. So if they get a polypeptide, they can throw it in there and it'll neutralize it. I don't know.
I loved that line too
know.
because John screams with so much, like I applaud Phil Lamar for his acting in this because the way he had to deliver that line of change into a polypeptide, not a chance.
Yeah.
And then he's like, well, I'm going to knock you out and do it anyway.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just going to bonk you out. I'm going to go jump into Stag and become a polypeptide. And we all think I'm going to die. But don't worry, I'm going to reform and I'm back and it's fine.
Yes. And the actress, going on the voice acting thing for a second, the actress that plays Sapphire, we've seen her a couple times. She's also Frida, as I looked up, but I don't remember the actress's name.
Let me look that up. I forgot to
Has a great,
it's Danica McKellar. She's Miss Martian on Young Justice.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. Fucking A+ top tier scream for your life scream.
Yeah.
Those are good screams.
She's put in the work here.
Yes.
Yeah.
But that's it. That's all I have good to say about the episode.
So, okay. Overall, I hated these. There's no way this is showing up on my short list. It doesn't matter Metamorpho is referenced down the line and he will pop up in JLU. But
everyone pops up in JLU.
Exactly.
You don't need their origin story.
We can tell you right now, spoiler alert, this is going. This is gone.
I don't know, Chris.
Nope.
This is a lot of fun.
Nope. This is the Empire State Building that I will die on. But I do want to talk a little bit about the voice cast on this, which is pretty incredible. So obviously we have our usuals. And then, so Rex Mason / Metamorpho is voiced by Tom Sizemore, who is one of those actors that you have seen everywhere in everything. He's played so many military officers, or just cops and henchmen, whatever. He was in Heat. He was in Saving Private Ryan. He's in Pearl Harbor. He's in Black Hawk Down. If you look him up, you'll recognize his face.
Tom Sizemore, is that what you said?
Tom Sizemore, yeah. He's been in a lot of stuff. Java is voiced by Richard Mole, a.k.a. our Two-Face from the DCAU.
That's right, yep.
But the big one I really want to talk about, because as you've already mentioned Danica McKellar as Sapphire, but the big one is Simon Stagg is voiced by Earl Bone, whatever. He, I would say from a look perspective, is most famous for having played Dr. Silberman, the psychiatrist in the Terminator movies, of which you have not seen.
Nope.
But most people would see his face and that's what they'd recognize him from. But this guy has had one of the most substantial voice acting careers of anyone. Let me list a few for you.
Clifford the Big Red Dog.
He voiced Rhino in BTOS and the New Batman Adventures,
Gotcha.
the henchman to Ventriloquist. He was the voice of Magneto in a one-off animated short called Pride of the X-Men from, I want to say, the early 80s that I watched nonstop as a kid. I think it was basically a pilot that aired that didn't become a full show, but it totally should have. It was great. He did a shitload of additional voices in a pup named Scooby-Doo. which I did not realize was as old as it was. I thought
80s,
that,
yeah.
I didn't realize that was in the
1988.
80s. I thought it was like mid 90s because that's when I was
No,
watching
because that's
it.
when all the kids stuff.
Yeah.
Because that was the boom. After Roger Rabbit,
Yeah.
it was reintroducing all of these new, all the cartoons back to a new audience. So you had Tom and Jerry Kids, Flintstone Kids, Pup Named Scooby Doo.
Yeah.
Looney, you had Tiny Toon Adventures, which was actually later than everyone else, but it started with Baby Looney Tunes.
And that makes sense. I just assumed because the animation
And Jerry Kids.
I assumed based on the animation it was a little bit newer than that.
It's very crisp.
Yeah, it's very crisp. I wasn't expecting it to be like 80s, so I was surprised by that. But Cameron, the big one here, the one that I saved for last is he is the voice of Senor Senior.
I just saw that one.
A Kid Possible.
I love me some Senior.
As do I. And of course, some Senor Senior Jr.
Oh, I mean, talk about a himbo.
Oh, one of the best.
Yes.
That is definitely one of those characters I look back on and go like, oh yeah, that makes sense now.
Yeah, I mean, Senor Senior and Senor Jr. are the funniest, and because it's exactly what would happen in reality. They're so rich. They're so bored with everything else. Like, I guess I'll be a villain.
What else am I gonna do?
Yeah, I'm like, I'll get there's no consequence.
Yeah,
because
Elon Musk
I'll
did
just,
it.
Yeah, I'll just pay my way out of anything
Yeah.
that goes wrong.
Yeah. But I had to bring that up. I thought you'd appreciate that.
Yes, I do appreciate that.
The great Senior. But seriously, Earl Bowen, I think that's how his name is pronounced. Really incredible voice acting career. So basically, if you've seen a cartoon at some point, you've heard his voice, which is pretty nuts.
He's also in a lot of video game stuff.
Yes, lots and lots of video game stuff.
He has 300 credits on IMDb.
It's crazy. It's really impressive. A great addition to the cast this week. I hated this. These episodes made me so mad. I had to constantly stop watching, not because it was too painful to watch, because I had to take so many notes to get the exact specific things that I want to talk about, how much they pissed me off.
Usually, to give you guys a little behind the scenes view of how I handle this, usually I just watch these episodes morning of.
Yeah.
Like 30 minutes before we start the show. But I couldn't sleep last night. So I'm like, I'll watch one episode at night and I'll do the other one in the morning.
Yeah.
I was so into the story.
Oh my God.
I had to know what happened last night. I watched it at 2:30 in the morning. Just so excited to talk about this with you. I almost texted you when I finished. I'm like, I'm so excited to talk about these episodes.
I mean, you could have. My phone's on silent at night. I am sorry for you on many levels, Cameron. many levels from that story.
Well, so then I read the comics after.
Oh my God.
It just got better and better.
It just got worse. Okay, are we done with these?
I think I've gone through all the topics I want to talk about.
Oh, okay, cool. All right. Well, now that we're done with that, Cameron, what do you got to plug this week? What are your bat plugs?
So I watched Queen's Gambit.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
What did you think?
I really enjoyed it.
Okay.
I feel stupid unless you also didn't know this. I didn't realize that it's not based off a real person.
Oh, I just kind of assumed it was, but I haven't watched it yet.
I also just assumed it was.
Yeah.
No, it's based off a book from the 80s, also called The Queen's Gambit.
Oh.
Off of a fictional person.
Oh.
Because there's never been like a female chess player in pop culture.
Oh.
Yeah. And so I was wondering, like, because there's the Pawn Sacrifice movie, which is about what's his face.
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
The first American to beat the USSR player. And I kept wondering, like, oh, where is he in this? Because the timeline kind of lines up to when he played.
Yeah.
She would have been like 10 years after his game. Mm-hmm. And so I'm Bobby Fischer. That's his name.
Okay, yeah.
I'm like, where's Bobby? Like, because he would be a major component in this story. Mm-hmm. And so as like the last episode's starting, it's only 8 episodes. Mm-hmm. And I finally Google her and I Google one of the matches. And I'm like, oh, no one in the story is real.
Oh, interesting.
It really changed how I watched the finale.
Interesting.
Yes.
Oh.
But it is great.
Okay.
I was worried it was going to focus more on like the drugs and the chess. And they kind of go pretty hand in hand. Mm-hmm. And also learning that she's not a real person makes the drug impact a little less.
I didn't know there were even drugs involved in this. I've just heard good things. I don't really know anything about it.
Yeah, so it follows Beth Harmon, who is a young chess prodigy orphan.
Okay.
Who starts playing in tournaments when she's like 11 and just becomes this kind of pop culture sensation around the world. And finally ends up playing the big, scary Russian players towards the end.
Okay.
But when she's in the orphanage, she starts, they give her kind of like an upper and a downer to kind of get through the day. And the downer is a tranquilizer. Mm-hmm. And so she starts getting addicted to them, and it becomes like a bigger and bigger part. And like the way she plays chess is she takes a bunch of pills and she can envision the board on the ceiling.
Oh, interesting.
And she kind of plays out a million matches in her head by looking at the ceiling. Mm-hmm. And so then she becomes like dependent on it, and it's this whole like drug crisis thing.
That's cool.
She has a harem of men.
Right on.
And the one part of the show that I don't know if they like changed it from the 80s version, but it's the one questionable part, which I would love for you to watch the show and just figure out this character. But there's a love interest character who he's gay, maybe, kind of, and then it's almost like a straight savior situation where like she's trying to convert him, but then it is not.
Okay.
And then I'm very curious for your take or someone else in the gay community's take on that character. But besides that, it's a great show.
Okay.
It's very, very good. It's very intense for chess.
You don't play a lot of intense chess games?
Look, in high school, chess became a weirdly big part of my class.
Okay.
And I just never got into it.
Yeah.
I think like I missed the wave where everyone learned together and like learned strategy together.
Okay.
And then after that point, I could never catch up.
It's like trying to play Call of Duty now.
Yes.
Like unless you play like launch day.
Yeah, it's
you're
like playing
fucked.
any shooter game now.
Yeah.
Like I'm just so bad at shooters in general.
Yeah.
That I can't get into any of them.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that. Like, I know how to play. I haven't really played in years.
Well, you were a Halo 3 guy.
I was referencing chess.
Oh, yes.
Yes. But
yeah, so am I. Yeah.
But yes, I was a big Halo 3 person. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But no, it's a great series. I'm sad. Honestly, I'm sad I sat on it so long.
Okay.
Because I even told people, like, I kind of shooed people away from it. Because I'm like, oh, it's just a drug story. Like, I don't... it's not about chess. I'm like, no, I'm very wrong. Like, everyone go watch it. It's really good.
Yeah, it's like in my rotation to come up soon.
Yeah.
So
and it's pretty easy to watch. It's 8 episodes, hour each.
Okay. Yeah, that's doable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's been my main plug.
Okay.
I also watch Mamma Mia, but that's
that's
new.
a perennial plug, Mamma Mia. So
what about you, Chris? What have you been watching, reading, listening?
I have a couple podcasts to plug this week.
Ooh.
So one is the when this comes out, I guess it won't be the latest episode of the DCAU review, but one of the latest episodes. They do Almost Got Him, which of course is like a classic, a BTOS favorite. But the exciting thing is they have a guest on it, and the guest is Monica Kubina, who's the digital artist and colorist on the Batman Adventures Continues comics. So the digital comic series that has been running that introduces Jason Todd into the DCAU, and it's based off of the Adventure Continues toy line.
That's awesome.
Going on for a little while. Yeah, and it's, those guys always do a great job. They have a very different, I would say, probably better approach to analyzing the episodes than we do.
Now, just because they're smarter and do more research and are more prepared.
And are more prepared and actually like numerically break them down and have a rating system. But they always do a good job. But this was a particularly good episode because the guest is super interesting. She's got a great perspective. And, I think especially if you want to get a real animators. I didn't mean to say that like you're not a real animator.
No, I'm not.
But
I'm certainly not a real animator.
Yeah, but like
I'm a motion designer.
Exactly.
Who uses the term animator because I don't like describing what a motion designer is.
That is very fair. But yeah, if you want to get like a comics animator's perspective on those episodes, it's really, really interesting. So, a definite recommendation there. Check that one out. And the other podcast was another episode of Inside of You with Michael Rosenbaum, who did a Justice League reunion.
Ooh.
Yeah, so we got everyone except for Kevin Conroy, who did his own episode a little while ago, back together just to do just catch up and chat, and they even read like a really short segment that Michael wrote.
About this episode?
Not about this episode. That would have been entertaining. Where they all play their original characters again. And it's really fun, and I learned quite a bit about some of the other actors I didn't know as much about. And I generally like his show. I don't listen to it all the time, but if he's got a guest on that I find particularly interesting to listen, and he's a good interviewer, and he's good about kind of getting people to talk about more personal and emotional stuff. And
yeah, you've plugged this podcast before. It's been a couple of years, but I remember you plugging it back in like the Superman days.
Yeah, exactly. Every once in a while, you have a guest on. I'm like, oh, I would love to hear what they have to say. Yeah, and it's a good one. So yeah, those are the two that I would recommend. Go and check it out.
Nice.
So yeah, and then you got a question for us?
I do have a question for you. You ready to snuggle up in your Cameron corner?
I am.
Got
Yeah.
your blanket, got the fire, got your hot cocoa, and this nice 71-degree day in LA.
It is a nice day today.
It's a very
actually.
nice day
It's nice.
today.
Yeah.
I have this pretty simple question. We're in times that are a little stressful. There's a lot of shit going on, and I just want to ask you, Chris, and the audience, what is your go-to happy place, like escape movie?
Ooh.
Or piece of entertainment. Doesn't have to be a movie.
Ooh. Okay. So, 'cause I think when you mentioned this before the show, you phrased it as like a comfort film, which is not quite the same thing. Because like I feel like sometimes a comfort film, like I have a selection of things that I'll put on if I'm trying to make myself cry.
Okay.
The top of the list, of course, is Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan.
Top of those pup named Scooby-Doo.
But Scooby-Doo. Yeah. I mean, Futurama is also on there too.
Oh, yeah. Oh, God, yeah.
Luck of the Friarish. I'll put that one on if I want to cry.
Friarish.
Jurassic Park.
Thank you.
Of course,
Mike, I couldn't remember the dog pun.
Yeah. Okay, but if I put it on, if I just want like happy, fun distraction.
Yeah.
Ooh. The Great Mouse Detective is one I put on a lot. It is my favorite Disney movie.
That is your favorite Disney movie.
And it is one like, if for whatever reason, like if I wake up in the middle of the night and I can't fall back asleep and I'll go out onto the couch to sleep, like I'll put that on because I can just have it running in the background and it'll just like, I'll conk out. But I still like, I will often then go like, maybe I should just go ahead and rewatch it because I actually want to watch it, not just have it on.
Yeah.
That is definitely high up there because it's short, it's fun, it's light. That's probably my number one. I mean, there's tons of stuff that I revisit all the time, like Batman and James Bond, some Marvel films. But I think if I were to pick a number one, like most rewatched for the fun of it movie, it's probably The Great Mouse Detective.
That's a good pick.
Yeah. How about you?
Yeah, and it's like quiet enough where you can kind of sleep to it.
Yeah.
Which I think is a big part. Because like when I was growing up, I would use Lord of the Rings to sleep all the time.
Yeah.
Because like the opening specific, the first 15 minutes is just scenery.
Yeah, it put me to sleep too.
Scores.
So yeah.
Yeah. I probably told this story before. This isn't connected to my question. I was doing very bad in school in 7th grade, and so my mom cut all technology out of my life.
Right. Yes.
But I hid a portable DVD player under my pillow. So at night I would watch a movie to fall asleep. And I didn't have many DVDs in my house. So I'd either use Fellowship of the Ring or I would use Sky High.
I don't think you've told that story before, but Cameron, you continue to out Cameron yourself.
Yes. I have to prove that I am me sometimes. There's no clone or duplicate sitting here. It is pure me.
There is no life model decoy of Cameron that could ever create the sort of ridiculous stories that you have.
Yes.
My God.
But no, my comfort films, Mamma Mia, definitely up there, 1 and 2. Wonderful films. Just so joyful all the time. And also I learned recently there was a behind the scenes interview that for some reason popped up on YouTube for me with the director who said that basically the entire cast just got drunk before shooting every scene.
Yeah.
And it's like, the first hour we're on set is just everyone pouring mimosas and champagne for people. Yeah. And just drinking as much as you can. And then we start shooting because then everyone's loose.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's
not
very
surprising.
1940s way of doing it. But that's sure.
Yeah. Yeah, it sort of sounds like how they filmed The African Queen.
Yeah.
So.
And then the two that I probably talk about the most, Speed Racer.
Yes.
Is so joyous. And like, if you don't get emotional during that last sequence.
Yeah, it is
beautiful.
It is great. It is genuinely great.
And then Fired Up.
Oh,
which
that
is
a good
so
one.
special to me.
That is a good one. Yeah, we've talked about Fired Up a lot. The movie that is way better than it has any right to be.
Yes, and still could have been so much better.
Yeah,
because it was part of that wave where like studios wanted to make the raunchy R's, but they couldn't because PG-13 made them more money.
Yeah,
and so they like toned down everything.
Yeah, it's like it's Yeah, it's like raunchy, but not full tilt raunchy, which kind of works in its favor sometimes.
Yes.
It's like slightly progressive and sophisticated while still being like very like tropey. It's this weird, it fell at a very weird time in like teen comedies.
Yeah, for people who don't remember Fired Up or us talking about it many times.
Many times.
Quick synopsis. Two very horny high school football players have slept with everyone in their school, and now they're bored. So they decide to be cheerleaders because they learn that cheer camp is just a giant fuckfest.
Yeah.
And so they go to cheer camp
Yeah.
and find out they actually love cheerleading.
Yes.
Because it's great.
Yeah.
And it's not the reason I became a cheerleader.
Because it came out after you were a cheerleader.
3 days after I became a cheerleader.
That's kismet right there.
Yes.
But no, those are some good options there.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we would love to know other people's.
Yes.
What are
I
your
need
comfort movies?
movies right now.
Yes.
So please share yours.
Yes, I'd say probably the best place then is either like respond to the post on Instagram or maybe send us an Instagram message so they can go direct to the camera. And you can also respond on Twitter, and then I'll just have to tell him.
Yeah.
So
That would be nice.
yes. But yeah, at Timm Talk Pod for both of those. And we did get a quick note from friend from last week. We did have someone write in with a suggestion for a superhero pun.
Ooh.
Yes. And so Jake, a.k.a. the Overvoid on Twitter, great fan of the show who often writes in, he suggested a character called the Weasel who controls a hive mind of weasels.
That's good.
Yes.
That's very good.
I really liked that one. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but that was off our prompt last week of creating superhero pun names or supervillain pun names.
Yes.
So the best of which of yours was, of course, the Didgeridoo?
Didgeridoo.
Didgeridoo?
Or Pomparour.
Yes. Yes, exactly. But yeah, if you have suggestions for other pun names, or if you want to share some of your comfort films, we could always use some more comfort films. You can find us at Timm Talk Pod on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Gmail.
Yes.
Also,
Yes.
if you want to berate us for hating on this episode so much because it was
Hey,
garbage.
you hated. I appreciated.
Your version of appreciation sounded a little bit sarcastic and half-hearted sometimes, Cameron.
No. I loved this episode in the same way that I love Kumite. What's that movie?
Bloodsport?
Bloodsport, yes. This was the Bloodsport of the DCAU.
Look, we are both big fans of good, bad entertainment.
Yes.
This was just bad entertainment.
This was great
This
bad
was just
entertainment.
bad entertainment.
This was great, horrible entertainment.
I will never rewatch these episodes again.
That's fine.
Which I think that is the key thing about good, bad entertainment. It has to be rewatchable.
Okay.
This is not.
That's fair.
Yes, into the bin it goes. But yeah, if you disagree with me personally, you can let me know at Lordifer on Twitter. And
I disagree with you personally.
Instagram. All right, Cameron. Well, then go ahead and get a Twitter
Nope.
and tweet me about it.
I'll send you an Instagram message.
Thank you. Where can they find you?
If you want to see my art, you can find that at Cameron.Dexter. I'll be updating it soon.
Yeah. Well, you put out something this last week.
I did, yeah.
Yeah.
This was the 1 year anniversary of Disney Plus, so the Plusiversary. It's weird that it's been a year.
Now, I have to ask you, Cameron.
Yes.
Did anyone else celebrate the Plusiversary, or was that more something you just created?
Disney created the hashtag. I used it.
Were there other people using the hashtag?
Yes, I looked up the hashtag, and there were about 50 people.
Hey, you know what? That's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not bad.
Plusiversary.
Yeah.
Ooh.
It's not the worst it could have been.
It's not really great, though,
It's
is
not
it?
great.
No.
No. I played off the old, like, hey, I'm so-and-so, and
Yeah.
you're watching Disney Channel. I feel like everyone needs one of those.
That was very clever. I liked
Yeah.
it. Yeah. I'm not disparaging your art.
Thank you.
Yes. I love the art. It was just very niche. And so I was curious if there were other
It was
people.
very niche.
Very niche. I was hoping that there would be other people that were embracing the Plusiversary so that it got seen.
The other people that I saw, the other 49 people using it, were all sponsored by Disney.
Great.
Yes.
Hey, but you know what? Hopefully someday Disney will actually pay you to do these things.
That would be the fucking dream.
That would be the dream, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Yes.
So Cameron, you keep making your Plusiversary art.
I will.
Yes.
You can see that at Cameron.Dexter. If you want to see my face, you can find that at CamDexter_adventures.
Boom, boom, boom. All right. Well, we'll be back next week with the season 1 finale of Justice League, the 3-parter. Cameron's
There's 3
favorite.
episodes?
It's 3 episodes.
Oh, shit.
Yes. The
How many more?
Savage-
How many have Metamorpho?
2? I don't know. None in the next 3-parter, thank God. But it's the Savage time.
Ooh.
Some of the best episodes, if I recall, of Justice League. So very, very excited to get to that. And that will be 1 episode before our 175th. So we timed that poorly because that would have been a really great coincidence.
Hey, we can do a bonus episode next week.
Yeah, so we're going to figure out what we're going to do to celebrate 175. But hey, you know what? We'll take suggestions too if you guys got some thoughts.
Yeah.
So that'll be coming up in 2 weeks. Next week will be the Savage time. But until then, thank you everyone for listening, and bye-bye.
Bye. Ba, 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 ba.
Bye-bye.